Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome an accomplished expert in strategy, innovation, and ESG from Brussels, Belgium, Enrico Maset. Enrico, welcome to the show.
Thank you, everybody.
Enrico is a business performance advisor. He's a global partner at Strategy Tools and a fractional chief strategy officer. He transforms businesses through sustainable innovation, ESG integration, and strategic foresight. So, Enrico, before we talk about work, tell me about your own journey in brief.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, to keep it short, I always say that I was lived in Italy, worked there, and after something happened around that time, two actually stuff happened. One is the European Union, so the possibility to travel easily on the geopolitical term, and the second one was Ryanair. So at certain point, everything was cheap to go around. So I did a little hopping. I've been to Dublin for 3 years after my study, met my wife there. My wife's from Belgium. And so now today I'm in Belgium.
Wow.
Sunny Brussels today.
Yeah,
We're lucky.
I know. I can see a little bit of the weather from your window. It seems like a very nice day today.
It is.
Okay. So now let's talk about foresight and strategy, Enrico. What got you interested in the area of foresight and strategy, and how do you define strategic foresight?
So I started during my study, and somehow my study were around marketing and communication. And at a certain point, I started figuring out that what the leaders need when they communicate on that part is a vision for the future. And that got attached to strategic foresight that kind of market at that time. We were around 2005. So my definition today of strategic foresight is a set of framework and mindset where you are looking long and you're acting short. You're gonna start getting the direction where the company should be going, what we're looking for, a preferable future, and how it can be.
Very interesting. I love the term looking long and acting short. And Enrico, when you work with so many of your clients, what are some common challenges organizations face when they want to integrate foresight into strategy?
The main challenge is that they are extremely busy and they cannot prioritize. So what I always say is you have like a time management and prioritization, and you as a leader, you should focus on hard questions. Too easy to go around on last quarter and try to fix that part. I think you have talented people to do that. But you as a leader, you look forward and you guide the company forward. So that for me is a really key aspect where sometimes we put it, even strategy is too far away, and strategic foresight as a niche strategy gets really, really, really down the line.
Great response. And what tools or methodologies do you find most effective for guiding foresight and long-term planning?
First part is all about trend scanning. That is the key part in the development of scenarios. These are like what tradition do. What is a hidden secret? It is the framing part. So you cannot look at everything that is happening in the world, on any geography, any technology, any industry. You should start framing what you think is the most impactful part that is coming forward. And that for me is the key area where the company should be working. Somehow, and then that is a good part, these are not the most impactful and ready part to be. So AI today is too sure is happening. So you should be working on foresight on AI. You should be already implementing and having techniques and strategy. What you're looking for is this area where you have a lot of uncertainty still today that they could happen or not, or how they could happen, and the leverage of impact that it could have in your company. So if you work on that middle area and you develop and you live scenarios, you start getting some experience from this thought, and after you bring it back to your today or your company where you work as a leader.
Well said. The question that is often there in the minds of a lot of small entrepreneurs or medium-sized entrepreneurs or startup founders is that they are often resource constrained. How can they leverage strategic foresight effectively?
Um, Two areas. So tools are out there.
Mm.
And thanks to AI, these tools, they become cheaper and more accessible by the day, by the week. So that I think I really suggest everybody to be looking at. And the second part is a soft skills, is a mindset. So it's about you dedicating time to do some part of this.
Mm.
When I work with founders and they're designing this, they are planning an ideal future and a vision. What
Mm.
they started is a beachhead market where they validate a minimum product with a minimum set of persona in a specific industry market that is accessible.
Mm.
And after I already know what's going to be the second step, when I get more validation for the market, more funding in my journey, I
Mm.
can have a bigger team and I can do bigger part like this. So this is happening on startup teams. There's no reason for this. It cannot happen on any company.
Right. Absolutely. And could you give me an example of a case study which you have may have worked with any client, and I don't want any names, where strategic foresight actually transformed the direction of an organization?
So I cannot really share like the client part of work because it's
Absolutely.
also down the line it is
Yeah.
happening. But like, let's say I want to take just like an example for everybody that knows, and it's Satya Nadella and Microsoft.
Yeah.
It's not down to specific strategic foresight, but he brought this kind of leadership
Mm.
that he started since the day that he came in to change the way that Microsoft was working and away from their traditional business model towards, what we know is the cloud and the Azure, the open source technology, and everything around AI.
Mm.
And by doing this, it took hard and bold decision, but Microsoft has been able to anticipate these trends at the right moment. And so today,
Mm.
the position of Microsoft is super strong.
Mm.
And that is not a major shift because it's still there, the traditional business. But like today, the outlook of Microsoft are completely different.
Mm.
And there are many, many cases of this that I think our public can find around.
Mm. What a great example. But for my viewers and listeners, can you think of any other such major corporation that has done such an amazing shift?
Uh, sometimes these are not shift, are evolution.
Mm.
Sometimes when I go there, I bring
Mm.
always the same case study
Correct.
about Amazon.
Yeah.
And that is something that they didn't foresee. So when they create all this infrastructure for the Black Friday, actually is happening, and
Mm.
they figure out that they have so much compute power that is idle the rest of the year.
Mm.
It was nothing more serendipitous that someone come forward and say, hey, what about renting this out? That
Mm.
became the AWS
Absolutely.
services.
And Black Friday has now become a global brand.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. So, Enrico, now let's talk about innovation and ESG. How can companies align their innovation strategies with ESG goals to achieve sustainable growth?
Good. So here we will link it about the growth part that we discussed before. It is more strategic to the second part that is really important for me, and that's what I work. One part is the sustainability and the other part is innovation.
Hmm.
So innovation should be linked to value creation for the company. And in the same way, sustainability should be linked to value creation. So if we do sustainability, especially in Europe, for regulatory and compliance, to be able to keep the business open, that's a small value. But companies, they're able to engage this into creating new, brand and positioning, product and services, technology, new market, new channels, and going down to new management point of view. They will really transform the company and make it close to, what we know that is the future. And the future is our younger generation. They are caring much more than what we did in the past. And so they will choose which company to work for. And just for that reason, it's just a matter of, 15 years. We cannot wait 15 years to replace our workforce, but like we have to anticipate. And the company that are doing this well, they have a big competitive advantage.
Very interesting. Great example. And how can leaders foster a culture of innovation that aligns with sustainability and ESG practices?
I work on this internally, really, in the company that I advise in the consultancy part. Is what is important is you have to bring sustainability close to the operational day-to-day activities. You have to identify what is the correlation. It is a positive correlation, it's a negative correlation, and any decision making that we do, whatever tactical or strategic, should have an analysis of what is the impact of that. When you have this and you have a good, data and KPI structure and performance model behind, you basically engage your organization over all the layer towards going the right direction of sustainability, where it is positive correlated with your business. Whatever it is negative correlated with your business, that is the hard decision. Should we stop this client because it's not aligned? Should we stop this product? Should we stop serving this geography for whatever reason that we have? These are the key decisions that the leadership of today they have to make.
When I was reading about you, I was also fascinated with the term green economy. So my question is for my viewers and listeners, tell us what is the green economy and how can organizations position themselves to thrive in the green economy?
So green economy is, how did they define it? The area where sustainability is positively correlated with value creation. This is a small percentage of the today business. It's a large percentage of a lot of company and startup that is creating all over the world in the last 5 years. So this green economy is growing. These companies are created based on business models that have sustainability and financial value together, and they're gonna be the big company of the future. We don't know which one. We don't know what use case and service they're gonna offer, but like we know that it's gonna be important. So this green economy today is not anymore a weak signal, as we say in Foresight, is really a future driver. And they know that it's happening. And it's about the company, how we can get into this green economy. Should we be doing green economy business case in our company and the impact of that? Should we finance and invest into startups? Should we create incubators where we invite people from the outside? Because we need incumbents to work on that part.
Well said. And my last question in this segment of our conversation is that how would you address skepticism around ESG, especially from those who are primarily focused on financial returns?
Skepticism will always be there. And I don't think we should fight it or we should embrace it. Today, because of the age of this green economy and sustainability, there is not a case study that says this company did everything well in terms of ESG and sustainability, for which his financial results are better and they are like outliner compared to the other. There is no study today that is happening. We just think that it's a matter of time. So the skepticism, they can stay and they're probably going to be good for the now good 3 to 5 years. But in the meantime, the green economy company, the right people that are leveraging it, they're already working. So it's just a matter of time because the other people will start discovering. And this is what I call it in terms of foresight and strategic foresight. It is that you're seeing something coming forward ahead. The speed is slow, maybe, but it will accelerate. It's in the right direction and will have some impact in you. So today, probably a financial player, they're probably happier working on their incumbent and work on that part. Good. But they also know that this is a short-term arbitrage. And at a certain moment, they have to move toward the new way. And some earlier investors normally are the ones that are going to get the highest return.
Great response. So, Enrico, now let's talk about the third and last segment of our conversation, which is collaboration and transformation, another area that you have a lot of knowledge and expertise. What do you see as the biggest barriers to successful collaboration across business functions for ESG initiatives?
So it's for ESG initiatives at large. Today, we really create job specification and role. And because of efficiency, we are trying to do the same stuff all over and over on one person so they can enhance the efficiency of the overall flow. The problem is that by doing a simple step, you lose touch about the overall value chain. Now we're like what you're doing as a person in the work and in life to behave on this. So that system, capitalistic, that we've been creating, create this friction and create this barrier to collaboration. What I like it is, let's set up some indicators and KPI that they are like at value stream level, at higher level. More people participate on the same part. And when you create this alignment, you can start create collaboration because the people will start thinking a little bit wider.
Yeah.
And they always understand the impact of what I do, step before, step after, and how we can improve this together. And I think that works for ESG, definitely, but for any case in any business process that we have in the company.
Well said. And how does fostering an activated workforce support both innovation and ESG goals?
For me, there is a lot of framework and strategy and investment and finance that we mentioned before, but the end is about the actor of these processes. And the actor of this process are the people enhanced by technology that is coming forward. So the activated workforce is a workforce that cares about improving what they do in the job, cares about improving the impact of work towards society and planet, and care about their meaningful life, that I'm happy in my job that I do with my family and working. Today, we know a lot of the workforce is, disengaged. They come, they just do the work, and they don't find much more value outside of that. The company that are able to engage, especially the ESG part, will leverage this part of energy, especially for the younger generation, that maybe we lost. Because in the past, my parents and going behind, job was their area where they could get like the fulfillment. And they were working hard, and they were the extra hour, and they were weekend, and were double work sometimes. And in some geography, it's still the case. And after we get in this, where we're in the lucky area, in Europe, everything becomes, so normal. And it's normal that I have this job that pays me well, etc. That I lose a little bit this kind of engagement, and I just become a little bit of passive player. I'm pretty sure that like by activating your workforce in business, in ESG, in innovation, you can get easily 30, 40% more productivity based on the same time, the same hour, and make sure that you are in a better place as well mentally.
Well said. Enrico, my next question is, how can investors and accelerators influence startups to prioritize ESG in their own growth plans?
So that is a double-edged sword here, because on one side, investors are required to bring more investment in specific area that they fit with ESG. Again, for reason that is more a lobbying and governance part that we are. On the other side, we know that investors, they're looking on a 10, 12-year point of view for the startup that they work for, and they know the importance of ESG. So today, any startup should be able to have a comprehension of the ESG part, just to make sure that they can comply and do the work in that part. And after stopping and say how you can engage ESG to be, positive correlated with your financial value creation that you want to have on this. Right. And for me, Accelerator and Incubator, they can bring this view for the founder in the accelerators.
Wonderful. I have time for two more questions for you. What are some of the most critical skills future leaders need to develop to drive impactful ESG and innovation?
For me, that is a bit of a soft skills. I say how you can keep on learning, accessing your decision making, probably in the past, and integrate this in the next decision making that you do. I always take this example that, like, back in the days, I was an avid poker player. And when you play a player, you do like, work on Texas Hold'em, you take probably 30 decisions on one hand, and all decision based on a lot of many input at that part. And what every poker player does, you continually watch back all the hands played to understand if his decision making was correct in the range that he was looking for or not, and adapt to the future. And after you adapt to the table where you are, to the player, the position that you have, the card that come out. In business, this is not happening. There is nobody doing post-mortem decision analysis. We tend to take it from consultancy company. These are the recommendations. Hope we launch it as was designed in the paper. 70% of this initiative, they fail. That's not down to me. And
Amazing.
for me, that's a little bit too easy sometimes for leaders not to take any accountability of this.
Well said. And my last question to you, Enrico, what would you say to leaders who are skeptical of the long-term ROI on ESG and sustainable innovation?
I will say to them that there is an ROI that is pure financial. And I think it's just a matter of time that this has been going to be validated, because I strongly believe in that. So look forward if you're not convinced, and see what are the early signals. If you're convinced, start investing early on the second part. And two, there is a lot of indirect impact of working on ESG in terms of access to finance, in terms of talent acquisition and retention, in terms of agency of your workforce. That this cannot be put in an Excel file for your CFO. But these for me are really, really important today. And we know in the current market struggle that we have, there is a talent war out there, and you want to hold dear to you, the key player that you need in your company.
Amazing. And on that note, Enrico, I just want to say thank you so much for speaking to me. It was a pleasure to learn about your journey. We covered reasonable amount of ground on three very, very vast subjects, which is foresight and strategy, innovation and ESG, and collaboration and transformation. Thank you for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you again for the invitation. Talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.